San Carlo Acutis died at the age of 15. He was not a child, he was a teenager, but he would have been a very strange teenager, and he could not in any way be considered an example if he had not had any friends. Friendship is very important in life. Friends are very important. The problem is that friends are not always good friends. In Spain we say, "Tell me who you are with, and I'll tell you who you are." And it is not easy, not at all, for Catholic teenagers to find a group of friends that more or less share their way of seeing life, of understanding how to spend free time, or sports, or how to relate to people from the opposite sex. Very often, during adolescence, young Catholics are subjected to enormous pressure, what we call bullying, from their group, their school, their classmates, and they lack both resources and even the willpower to stand up and say, "I am not going to do that." For example, when it comes to drug use or alcohol, not to mention pornography. This is why it is very important to look at St. Carlo Acutis at 15 years old, also a model of friendship. His parents refer to this, saying that one of the readings that most influenced their son since childhood was The Little Prince by the French writer Saint-Exupéry. And in that little book, which is certainly recommended for everyone, not only teenagers, the child, the little prince, meets among other characters, for example, the fox. The dialogues are extraordinary, but he also meets the rose, and he reaches this conclusion: the time you have devoted to your rose bush, is what makes that rose important to you. It is what you have done for that person that makes that person important to you. This is why the parents of St. Carlo Acutis say that he devoted time to his friends. He dedicated time to them, when they were nearby, and also when they traveled, when they were far away in another country, because the others have moved, or because his own family moved. He did so by telephone, he did so through the internet. But that time dedicated to his friends was always time lived in the presence of Christ. It wasn't a bad friendship. It was a friendship in which Carlo tried to transmit the love of God that burned intensely in his heart. And that time led Carlo to listen, to find in the other someone who could receive his message, but also so that the other could find in him someone willing to be at their side, someone they could open their heart to. It was not only with the friends he had made over the course of his life, but also with people whose existence his parents knew absolutely nothing about. His mother remembers that on the day of his funeral, the parish was packed with people who were crying, but also joyful, because they knew that Carlo had not ceased to live, but had gone to true life in heaven. And she tells some examples, such as that of the sacristan of their parish. Carlo had never had a conversation with him, yet this man, a foreigner from Sri Lanka, dedicated a poem to him while Carlo was still alive. Why? Because he had been deeply impressed by that child, and later that teenager, because of the smile Carlo always gave him. He only said hello, but he said it with a smile that moved him. As Saint Teresa of Calcutta says, perhaps we will never value enough how much a kind word or a smile is worth. Another detail, when he walked from school to his home in the area of Milan, where they lived, there were buildings with concierges or doormen. And often, though not always, because if it rained it wouldn't be possible, these doormen stood outside on the street. And as Carlo walked by, he passed in front of other buildings with their own doormen, and always, every day, he greeted them. Many of them were immigrants, but for him it made no difference what color their skin was, or even if they had a different religion, because for him they were creatures loved by God. Regardless of their economic or cultural level, their skin color or ethnic origin, creatures loved by God, whom he treated with kindness. If you have no friends, you have a problem, because having a true friend is a treasure, but not the kind of friendship the world often teaches towards evil, but a friendship in Christ for the good, a friendship forged over time, requiring dedication, meaning being at that person's side when they need you, even if they make mistakes, not to collaborate in what is wrong, but to help them remain with God, doing good. Therefore, St. Carlo Acutis is also, for all of us, a model of how we should treat our friends.